Voters in Framingham's District 3 are being asked to go back to the polls again on January 11th to vote for who will be their city councilor. The outcome in the November election gave Councilor Adam Steiner a win by 2 votes. His opponent, Mary Kate Feeney, requested a recount. In the recount, 2 ballots were counted as votes, bringing it to a tie, and then a judge was asked to weigh in on those ballots. He determined that they were not votes for Feeney, but then he decided that due to possible technical questions with other ballots, he ordered another election. That election is coming up on Tuesday, January 11th. Councilor Adam Steiner and candidate Mary Kate Feeney are here today to talk about their candidacy. Welcome and thanks for joining me. First, Councilor Steiner.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to see you today, and I know you've been through a lot with all of this. Both you and your opponent have had to endure not one campaign, but now a second campaign in the midst of the holiday season, which has not been easy. So now's an opportunity to really let the voters of District 3 know more about you and get more familiar with the process that's happening and get out and vote again on January 11th. So some things that we probably should talk about. Number one, why did you decide to run for re-election and to continue serving, hopefully, and you were hoping to continue to serve on the City Council?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm running for re-election for the same reason I ran for the first time 4 years ago. And that's because I think that Framingham city government needs people who not only were born and raised in Framingham, grew up here, but are living and raising a family here, that have personal experiences as somebody who drives through the city every day, who takes their kids to school, who is living in the neighborhood and talking with their neighbors. I think that's that personal experience is valuable. I think that Framingham, we're really still in the infancy of being a city.
Mm-hmm.
Even though we're 4 years in, I think it's
Right.
still an experiment. And it's critically important that we have people on our city council that are going to be there to collaborate with each other, to work with the mayor, but also to be willing to push back when necessary. And that's something I think I can bring to the table, and 4 years on the council have allowed me to develop those skills even further.
So in your current role on the City Council, you serve in what capacities?
So I'm vice chair of the City Council, which for the most part is there when the chair needs to step away. But more importantly, I'm chair of the Finance Subcommittee. So any measures that are going to require spending of funds, including the entire city budget, which is the biggest role the City Council plays really in the way the government runs, goes through the Finance Subcommittee and has to be put on the agenda by myself.
And what elected positions have you held in Framingham in the past?
Well, if we go way back to junior year at Framingham North High School, I was treasurer of my class, so I like to start with that.
Okay.
I was a town meeting member, so maybe 5 years before we became a city, I joined town meeting, and so I was elected to that and continued until we became a city, and then I was elected to the City Council. And then the City Council itself elected me vice chair 2 years ago.
Okay, and what appointed positions have you held in Framingham in the past, if any?
No appointed positions.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the budget and your role in finance. Framingham's budget's over $300 million. What is it this year exactly? It's getting close to $3.5 million, $350 million or more.
It's about that, yeah.
Yeah. And that's so the City Council reviews the budget and can make cuts to the mayor's proposed budget. Do you feel that that's the right dynamic between the City Council and the mayor? And has it worked well in the past? Has the whole budget process worked well in the past? Would you want to see it changed if you were reelected to the City Council?
Yes, I mean it needs to be adjusted, and that's going to have to be part of the charter review process, because I think it's a flaw in the charter that needs to be addressed. That according to the charter, the mayor does not have to release the budget to the City Council until about May 1st or May 2nd, and that gives an incredibly short time for the City Council to evaluate every department, dig into the things that they do, and try and find efficiencies. And so we need to require that the mayor starts submitting some information to us very early.
Okay. And people talk about wanting the City Council to work better together. What will you do to make the council work better together?
Well, I think one thing that we need to do is actually be trained on interacting with each other. I think that, coming from working in a school environment, we spend a lot of time, connecting as a team. As a technology leader, I need to be able to work with teachers, I need to be able to work with students and administrators. And the administrative team, spends time figuring out how we're going to best work with our teachers and meet their needs. So I think the city council should do that. This new group should get together and actually have working group sessions where we, talk about the best ways to work with each other.
Okay. And do you believe that this, I'm going to jump around from topic to topic here, but do you believe that the school department should continue to carry over annual surpluses in the millions, or do you think the money should be turned back to the general fund budget?
Well, I think a significant portion is there as a special education reserve fund, which is incredibly important because we know that if students move to Framingham who require expensive outplacements, there can be surprise budget impacts for the school department. So I actually think they need to carry over a significant amount of those funds. I think there's room to make some adjustments with that, but I wouldn't say that they should not be carrying over any funds at all.
Okay. And do you think that Framingham should continue with the school choice program as it exists today?
Framingham, the sad fact is we have to continue with the school choice program until we have a Southside Elementary School, which is something that should be a priority of the next city council, and it'll be a priority of mine on the city council. Because the fact is that we just have way more students on the south side of town, and we have more schools on the north side of town. And so if we didn't have school choice, it would be completely unequal, where students on the south side would be bused to the north, and north side students would be able to walk to their elementary school.
That's another, I was just going to ask you about that, because the voters stepped up recently to contribute a significant portion to the construction of the new Fuller Middle School, which they'll be paying for over 20 years. And there's talk about this South Side School that you just mentioned. So you're saying that if it did come up for a vote within the next couple of years to ask taxpayers to fund the construction of another school, that you would be in support of that?
Absolutely. I'm going to push for it. I'm not going to wait for it to come up. I'm going to be asking the mayor to let's make this happen. Let's work together. I think the voters supported the Fuller School overwhelmingly. It was something like 75% yes for Fuller. I think that people in Framingham recognize how important education is for our residents, for our kids, but also just for the well-being of our community. I think we attract professionals to come here because their kids can go to our great schools. And a new Southside Elementary School is essential to improve education in Framingham, so we've got to do it.
And of course, that will have an impact on property taxes.
They will.
Along with CPA, the Community Preservation Act, and other things. So how do you balance that, so that people can still afford to live in Framingham?
Yeah, number one is we need to really laser focus on economic development in Framingham, because new commercial growth is critical to our success as a community. And we've benefited from new growth over the last 10 years in particular, but I think residential development is reaching, a steady place. There may be more demand for more apartment complexes, but I don't necessarily think we should have them. What we do need to do is look at our commercial areas, especially in District 3, the 990 area and the Tech Park, and get more proactive about reaching out to businesses, especially in the life sciences, and bringing them to Framingham. That commercial development will provide funding which will allow us to reduce the burden on taxpayers. I would also say there's room for efficiencies, and that's part of the flaw in the budget process as it now stands, is it's very hard for us as a finance subcommittee to actually dig into that and have the time to do that. What we have done is, I generally think that it's more about how you're spending your money than exactly which dollar you're spending it on, but I do think we've made some important reductions as a city council in operational costs in our city. I think as a town and then as a city over the years, each department's sort of added on operational expenses every year. Things they subscribe to, they just renew, and it gets a little more expensive. And I know as a tech director, you feel that push. But we as a city council have pushed back with the mayor's budgets and made reductions over the years to help balance out those increases.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you feel good about efficiencies, but are there any votes that you've made as a city councilor that you regret?
Well, on this topic, I would say I think that in hindsight we moved too slowly on marijuana, retail marijuana or cannabis. I think that there were horror stories with the first two or few retail locations that opened in Massachusetts, and we were concerned about that. In hindsight, that was an exception. This coming fiscal year, the estimate is we'll have $1 million in revenue from the retail locations we do have open. If we had managed to get that done 6 months a year earlier, we would be talking about more revenue, which is going to be essential.
Would that have been a blip, or would it have been more revenue on an ongoing basis?
Well, it would have been more revenue last fiscal year, and then we were projecting $1 million this fiscal year. I think, the rollout of these retail locations has slowed down in the state, so I think that it's likely that these locations will continue to really do well. The other thing that we haven't even brought online is cannabis delivery as a state. I think that's going to be coming so that people who are not able to leave the home have access to this, and we need to make sure that our Framingham businesses are positioned well, that we're supporting them to also provide that service to expand their business.
Okay. How do you plan to communicate and work with the incoming councilors as the council changes, and the incoming mayor and the mayor's administration?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully I have a good relationship with both of our new incoming councilors, Councilor Alexander, Councilor Malak, and with the mayor-elect, who I served as a fellow city councilor for the first 2 years. So I think that it feels good to me as a leader on the city council to have those existing relationships and to be able to build on them. One thing that I did with Mayor Spicer was to have, as vice chair, was to have bi-weekly phone conversations with her and pre-COVID actual meetings, and that's something that I would continue to do with the mayor-elect. In fact, I already, without getting into specifics, I already had a phone conversation with him because there's some things he's looking for the finance subcommittee to do, soon after he is inaugurated, and so Charlie and I, Mayor Szycki and I have a good relationship that I think we'll be able to build from.
Good. I'm going to ask you a series of yes/no questions, just so people can get a good feel for where you stand on certain things.
I hate these questions.
I know. Sorry about that. Do you own a home in Framingham?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have kids in the Framingham Public Schools?
Yes.
Do you believe that churches and nonprofit organizations should be paying property taxes?
Ooh, you gave me 2 easy ones, then you slipped that one in. Yes.
Okay. Do you believe the school committee should be involved in the planning and discussion with developers about housing development?
Yes.
Are you pro-choice?
Yes.
Do you think American Rescue Funds should be used to make up for water and sewer losses?
No.
Do you think, would you support the reestablishment of a base rate for commercial water and sewer users in Framingham?
Yes.
Do you think the split tax rate in Framingham between residential and commercial should be changed to put more burden on the residential side?
No.
Would you vote in favor of the deployment of body cams for the Framingham Police Department, even if the cost was over $1 million for implementation?
Yes.
Do you support additional marijuana licenses being granted in Framingham?
No, not
Retail
beyond what we
marijuana.
just
Okay.
approved.
Would you vote for the Traffic Commission to have a budget separate from the Department of Public Works?
Yes.
Would you vote in favor of increasing the compensation for city councilors?
Maybe.
Okay. Would you vote to restore the salary that was made to the mayor's salary?
No.
Would you vote to restore the funding to rejoin the Massachusetts Municipal Association?
Yes.
Would you vote to eliminate or reduce public participation at city council meetings?
No.
Would you vote to move public participation at city council meetings to the end of the meeting instead of the beginning?
No.
Are you in favor of changing zoning to accommodate accessory dwelling units being allowed in single-family homes?
Yes.
Would you vote in favor of appointing people to committees and boards who you don't like?
Yes.
Do you believe the city administration should be more diverse to include more people of color in key positions?
Yes.
Would you vote to expand the central business zoning downtown to extend further down Route 135 towards Ashland and or Natick?
Possibly. Yes.
Do you support granting tax incentives like TIFs to businesses who want to come to Framingham?
Yes.
Are you interested in serving as chair of the city council or vice chair?
Interested, yes.
Should Framingham spend the money to restore the Athenaeum?
Yes.
Do you think the Danforth building should be used for a new county court or a court of any kind? Court.
Yes.
Do you think the city should continue to own and operate the Pearl Street Garage?
No.
Did Framingham miss an opportunity by not purchasing the Belknap pool?
Yes.
Okay. I'm done with the yes, no, the lightning round of questions. Let's talk a little bit about what just transpired in this election that's causing you to
Do
be
we
here
have
again.
to? All right.
Well, I want to ask, do you believe that the legal action that you took in terms of this election was the right step to take, and why, if so?
I do. I mean, I think that when the election is this close, I think it's fine for either candidate, in this case both candidates, pursue different options in order to make sure that, you know, an impartial person took a really close look at the election, I think. And the question of those two ballots, you know, being at the recount, seeing them, I was shocked that they were counted, so I felt like I needed somebody else to look at these. And you know, and the judge confirmed that they should not have been counted as votes.
So what legal action did you actually have to take? Because what's out there in the media is that you sued the city.
Yeah, I mean, not sued the city. It's requesting. I mean, I'm not a legal expert. This is probably the first time I've ever hired a lawyer in my life. And so they asked a judge to review this, to review those ballots. The city was also going to ask a judge to review the election process because they wanted to have the election sooner than is normally required by law. And the city wanted to also keep the rules of the prior election, which meant not changing the district lines and also allowing full mail-in voting. So the city was going to have to go before a judge anyway. We ended up on the same docket, you know, with the same judge. I thought the judge, you know, even though it ended up not going in my favor overall, I thought he was very fair and explained things. And as somebody who's new to court and judges, you know, it was a lot more, you know, there's a lot more explanation that I was worried it would all be legalese, and I'd be asking my lawyer what was going on, but the judge was very good about that.
And so what do you think will happen in January? I mean, do you think people are aware of the fact that there's an election coming up?
They're going to be. I mean, that's our job, and I think that, you know, me and my team are out there knocking on doors. I mean, the weather gods are smiling on us right now, where right now it could be snowing, but it is actually not bad out. So we're knocking on doors. And honestly, I'm knocking on doors, and a lot of people are not aware there's an election on January 11th. So I think that's a big part of our campaign, is to get out there, make sure people know what's happening, and also educate them on my background and my experience and the things that I've done, so that they're, you know, ready to cast a vote for me, or to vote by mail, or to do absentee ballots.
Is there any chance that you would run for other office, like state rep or any other offices?
No, I mean, my focus right now is on city council, and I plan on winning on January 11th, and we'll worry about anything else years down the road. But
and what do you think?
I love being a city councilor. I want to stay on there. I'm ready. You know, we have 14 days or something like that.
It's still January 11th is the election. Yeah, so it's coming up, and there's a lot. You know, it's a busy time of year. People are focused on, you know, they were focused on the holidays, changes in the new year, settling in. You know, the COVID is on an uptick, so there's a lot going on.
There is. It's tough for people. It's tough for people to think about this, but it's important. And I think that District 3 generally has very high turnout, which is a sign of, you know, we have an active, engaged voter base, so I feel confident that people will.
Can you explain, just so everyone knows whether they're in your district or not, what the boundaries of your district are? Just
sure.
A quick overview.
I mean, the short answer is if you vote at Brophy, then you're in District 3.
Good. Yeah.
We only have one polling location, but Callahan State Park is in the middle of District 3. You've got the east side of District 3, which is my neighborhood, McAdams, Claudette, Livoli. You have Pheasant Hill. In the north, you have the farms. And it comes all the way down to Framingham Center. So it's actually a huge geographic district that also covers a lot of different neighborhoods. So.
Okay, so for those people who are watching who live in District 3, I mean, it's really important for you to know that you have an election coming up January 11th. And as Adam said, if you vote at Brophy Elementary School on Pleasant Street, then that means you, right? Back to the polls on January 11th. Is that the only way people can vote on January 11th?
If they have filled out their ballot, they can't bring it into the, you know, if they filled in a mail-in ballot, they can't bring it into the polling place, but they can drop it off in one of the drop boxes. But I would say to people, if you're going to vote by mail, get those ballots in early. You need to be applying. January 5th is the deadline to apply. Vote by mail is for anybody. So if you're just not comfortable voting on January 11th in the polling place, call the city clerk's office or stop by there. They'll give you an application. You can fill it out, and they'll mail you a ballot that you'll be able to either mail back or, better yet, drop off. There's 2 drop boxes, one at the McAuliffe Library and one at the Memorial Building, and so you can drop those off. Okay. Absentee balloting is just for people who are going to be away or they have a specific reason why they can't vote on January 11th, but anybody can vote by mail if they want to do so.
Okay. And so with this whole new change and this whole new election coming in, and you having served as vice chair, what do you really want to roll your sleeves up to do if reelected and starting to serve again right after this next election?
I mean, the first thing is, COVID is still hitting Framingham hard, just like the rest of the world in our country. So we've got to buttress our public health department to make sure we're addressing it as aggressively as we can. We need to be getting masks available to folks. We just had our first round of free tests handed out, but we need more of them. We need the state and the federal government to step up and support us in that effort. Mm-hmm. We also need to be building up so that we're ready for the next pandemic, because unfortunately, whether it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, there's going to be another one. And that means, supporting education, supporting community groups that'll help people stay safe. Then for me, it's the big 3 after that, after COVID. One is economic development. As we've talked about, right. We need resources in order to support other things. We need to revamp that department, get aggressive with attracting businesses to Framingham. The second is education. Our schools have been through a crisis for 2 years, and I think as a parent, I know firsthand how amazing they've been with our kids, but recovery from COVID for our schools is going to take years and years, and they're going to need the support to do that. And an active, engaged city council that recognizes their needs. And it also, again, fuels economic development because professionals move to Framingham partially because we have a great school system where their kids can go. So, and then the third is the environment, because even though COVID is on the forefront of our minds, we are facing a climate crisis that is hitting Framingham and hitting our world. And we need to be, despite COVID, working to address that on a local level right away. And that means that we should be not doing any construction of city buildings without adding alternative energy, solar panels, geothermal. We shouldn't be buying a city-owned car that isn't a hybrid or an electric car. We should be requiring construction of multifamily that they also have alternative fuels. I think, it's become even more clear to me how much these big global issues impact Framingham, and it's imperative that Framingham respond in kind. We need to take action on the local level for these issues that are global. Things like the environment, we can't just say, oh, that's, it's a state issue, or education, or social justice, racism. We need to be working, for those issues in Framingham every day, and that's what I would do on the city council.
Mm-hmm. But you have limited control over those things on the council. We have the power of the purse, right? You're the legislative body. So how do you influence decisions that affect those areas of concern?
Well, the power of the purse is a powerful one because it means that we're meeting with department heads and talking to them about their agenda and pushing them to go in a certain direction. So like you mentioned, body cams. I've asked the chief about it before, but I think it's time to get a concrete proposal. Let's let the city council weigh in. Is it worth this amount of money to make that happen? So there's those conversations that'll happen. Also with the mayor, I think, my experience with Mayor-elect Szycki is that he's going to be open to having discussions about what I'm hearing from District 3. I mean, we're the voices of those district voters, so the mayor is going to need to hear from us about what is needed in District 3, mm-hmm. and to advocate for those. And then just as a representative of our city, whether you're a city council or in the administration or department head, like you're representing Framingham everywhere you go. So you need to walk the walk and in your personal life, whether it's not using disposable bottles, when you're drinking water, or simple things like that to the way you vote on issues. I think a city council needs to be thinking about all of those things.
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about leading by example,
Yeah.
as well as the power of the purse and working with department heads. And what do you think will happen with the new administration coming in that'll be most obvious to the residents of Framingham in terms of change through the collaboration of the council and the mayor?
Well, I'm hopeful. I mean, we have, we're going to have to see. I'm hopeful that there'll just be more of less of a focus on disagreements over process and personality, and we can focus on actual policies. I think that things have been pushed to the side, even to a certain extent, the COVID pandemic, but definitely the environment, education, economic development, because we've been, so many of the heated discussions are about things that are, to most voters, not important to their daily lives, like disagreements over, votes or emails and things like that. So I'm hopeful that with a new administration, we'll be able to reset, the clock on that and focus on really important issues.
Okay. Well, you, like I said in the beginning, you and your opponent have been through now 2 elections, 2 campaigns for the same election, pretty much, for the same, the same city council seat. Mm-hmm. So I know that has tested everyone's endurance and stamina, and I hope the public appreciates all that you've been through and knows that you're both very interested in serving, and you've laid out some of your priorities and reasons for wanting to continue in that role. And so I thank you very much for being here today to do that. Is there anything else you want to share with the public before we end?
No, just a reminder, January 11th, if you voted at Brophy in the past, you'll be voting at Brophy again. If you didn't vote on November 2nd, definitely please go out on January 11th. And if you want to hear more about me, check out my website, steinerforframingham.com. And I'm happy to meet or chat with anybody more about the election.
Yeah, I think we can put that website up on the screen. Let people know that they can go to steinerforframingham.com and mark your calendar, put a big circle around January 11th to make sure that you do get out and vote. People spend a lot of time and energy trying to get the message out to the voting public, and then if people don't come out to vote, it's very disappointing and obviously doesn't show engagement and the willingness to participate in local government. So I want to thank you for taking the time today, Councilor Steiner, for being here, wishing you the best in the upcoming election, and thanking you for stepping up to run again. And for more information, again, please go to steinerforframingham.com. Coming up next, candidate for District 3 City Councilor Mary Kate Feeney, and we'll be right back.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans, because love has no labels.
STEM is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Well, we're back now, and we're joined by District 3 City Council candidate Mary Kate Feeney. Thank you so much for being here today, Mary Kate. It's a pleasure to have you here to talk about the second round of elections for District 3.
Yep.
Our viewers have already gotten the introduction to the show about why we're having this election. But again, it's a do-over for the election in November, and there's important issues, and obviously people want to know what your stand is on many of those issues. So that's what we'll do today, is talk about the things that are on people's minds. And of course, one of the first things always has to do with who you are as a candidate and what you bring to the position. So you might want to just talk a little bit about what are some of your personal and professional experiences that you feel are most helpful to you would be most helpful to you in a role as a city councilor.
Well, first off, thank you, Audrey, for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to be here, and thank you to your viewers for watching this exciting segment. I can't believe that we're here.
Yeah.
It's been a very wild couple of months, just with everything that's been going on.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it's really exciting because District 3 came out, to vote, and this was a very interesting election season, and so here we are. So I'm a lifelong resident of Pheasant Hill. It's the neighborhood that's off of Pleasant Street, right on the Southborough line. I grew up here with my brother and my sister. I'm the proud daughter of a high school teacher and a high school teacher turned software engineer. I went to school here in Framingham at St. Bridget's. I went to college in Canada, actually, around the time of 9/11, and came back here. I'm a former aide to Governor Deval Patrick. And that's where I really started to understand and grow about what government is about and community service.
Was that your very first job in government?
It was, yeah, working there, working in the office of the governor. I worked in the Constituent Services Office, which means that I'm the front line of government. So when you call or emailed or faxed, the governor's office, that's right, faxing. We then triaged people's concerns, and we talked to them to figure out how could we help them and how could we connect them with agencies and nonprofits. I also was a writer for the office of the governor, and I wrote, birthday notes to 100-year-old ladies and, congratulations on anniversaries.
How did you pursue that job, and how did you land that job?
Well, it was through. That's a good question. I'm trying to remember. I had a friend that worked in the governor's office who I had met through college.
Deval Patrick's office?
Yep. And so that's that's how you get the job. And I had a portfolio and newly graduated, and they wanted a writer.
Wow. What year was that?
So I don't know why that's important, Audrey.
Oh, just curious how long ago.
Deval Patrick was elected in 2007.
Okay.
So anyway, I worked there, and then I became the director of online media. And as the director of online media, as I like to say, I played Deval Patrick online. Mm-hmm. And he was one of the first governors on Twitter. And so we had to really explore, what does that mean to communicate with people as a government official and as government online? And so we worked on different transparency measures. Then I left and I went to the Office of Travel and Tourism and worked with economic development and talking about the great stuff in Massachusetts. Then I left and I started my own company, which I still have today, working with nonprofits and small businesses on telling their story online. So I'm also a relative newcomer to Framingham politics, and I am a member of many different organizations, such as Framingham Force, the Framingham Democrats, League of Women Voters. I also serve on the St. Bridget's School Advisory Board. And I've been very involved with the Framingham Coronavirus Community Outreach Program that Nicole Doak has been quite a leader in trying to help people with food insecurity and vaccines. I've been glad to play a very small part in what she's been doing.
It's wonderful how many volunteers she's pulled together for that operation.
It's been fabulous, and I think it's the best part about Framingham is that when there is a crisis, that we come together and we help our neighbors. And that's what that's about. Mm-hmm.
And I think you were very involved as well in the campaign for Framingham to become a city, right?
Yes, absolutely. I believe, and I still believe, Framingham becoming a city is the right thing that we had to do. Mm-hmm. And because I look around and I see that we have equal representation amongst all of the areas of Framingham that we didn't have in town meeting. And it's exciting to me to see, we had Edgardo Torres and Tracy Bryant and Gloria Pascal, these voices, part of our government. That's important. Mm-hmm. And, the last 4 years has been a bit of a, we've had some growing pains, but I think it was the decision that we will be very happy that we made as we continue to go along.
Mm-hmm. Now, in where we stand right now as a city, our budget is over $300 million. The council reviews the budget, it can make cuts to the mayor's proposed budget, but can't actually add any funds to the budget. So what experience do you have with the municipal budget or municipal budgets?
Well, one of the things that I'm also involved is I'm the vice chair of the Strategic Initiatives and Financial Oversight Committee, mm-hmm. which I've been a member of for the last 3 years. And we've worked on a number of projects when it comes to the budget, especially with capital improvements. We were tasked by the school committee and the council to look at the capital budget So we've been looking at that, about figuring out how to pay for new school roofs and other capital projects that are facing the schools. We've been looking at ARPA funds, and actually, I think it's something that's been really great that we can all talk about, is that we've put together these summits this year, which has brought together the mayor and the council and the school committee to have an actual open conversation about how we should be spending this federal money. And I think they've been great conversations, and everyone has brought something to the table to make, because I think it has to be a community decision about these funds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. So do you believe that, let's talk about some of the funds specifically. Do you believe that the school department should continue to carry over their annual surpluses, or should those funds be turned back into the general fund?
Look, I think that the school budget, especially at this time when there is so much going on with this pandemic, the schools need to use their money, and it's their decision to make those decisions.
I mean, they have I think this year it's like a surplus of over $6 million. Do you think they should be able to hold on to those surpluses?
Yes, and I think that they should also have a plan on how they're going to spend those surpluses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they get money from the state, but their city contribution has decreased because of the amount of money that's coming from the state. The city should not be using the school department and the school budget as a savings account, which has been the case for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. That's not right, especially during this time of the pandemic.
Well,
there was a lot of. Well, no, let me just finish. We need to figure out what our students need, what our teachers need in order to succeed and to thrive in this community. This pandemic has turned everything on its head. Mm-hmm. Remote learning, that was uncharted territory for everybody. What I'm seeing is that we need more resources to help with mental health. That is a crisis that we have in this community and around the nation. How could we then use that money, whether it's the surplus, ARPA money, state funding, to continue to invest in our kids with their mental health? That's something that we need to look at. We also need to make sure that these buildings that the students are in are safe. We have all of this deferred maintenance. It's not just school buildings, it's city buildings as well. If we keep deferring it, we're going to have to condemn some schools, and then what? Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, taxpayers stepped up recently to contribute a significant portion to the construction of the new Fuller Middle School, which they'll be paying for over 20 years. But now there's talk about building another school. So it became up for vote within the next 2 years to build another school, in addition to what taxpayers just funded for the Fuller Middle School. Would you vote in favor of that?
Absolutely. I believe that we do need a South Side school, because it is a crime that we have 5-year-olds who are commuting, because that's ultimately what they're doing, an hour to get to school. I didn't go an hour on the bus to school.
Do you believe that we should continue to support the school choice program in Framingham?
Yes, I do think that there is a lot of value there, but you know, my role as a counselor is to make sure that I work with my peers and with the mayor to have a city that businesses want to come to establish and to grow, so that we get more of that revenue. Mm-hmm. It's also to build a city where we have great quality of life amenities, whether it's rail trails and a splash pad that we're always talking about, so that we have then the resources for our kids, for our schools to thrive. And I also see my role as a counselor to support our school committee member. You know, we have had great representation with Scott Wadlin on the school committee, and he decided not to run again, and I appreciate and thank him for his service. And I'm really excited about our new school committee member, Jen Moshe. Mm-hmm. And my role is to support her, to talk to her, and to figure out how, as somebody who's representing the city, to give her the support that she needs. That's my role as a counselor.
Now, do you think that, what do you think that the first and second city councils could have actually done better? We've had 2 now, and this will be the 3rd. Mm-hmm.
Where does one begin? I think we have to stop trying to thrive on dysfunction. I think Framingham needs an attitude adjustment. It needs to change its tone, and we need to have genuine collaboration. We talk and talk and talk, but it's not getting done. You know, I'm running for this seat because I genuinely believe that it is time to get stuff done. Mm-hmm. We need to stop being reactive and to be proactive. I would have loved to have seen this council to really be genuine with getting work done. We have this problem that if we keep talking about it, we act like it's been done and it's been solved. That's not the same thing as action. That's what I would have preferred. That's what I would have liked to have seen in the last 2 councils. Don't get me wrong, they've made some progress some places, but we have so much potential. We have so much more we can do. I've been knocking on, I think, almost 1,000 doors since June. And the big thing that has occurred to me talking to our neighbors in District 3 is the frustration that we're stuck in the mud and that no one is actually interested in listening to them or getting anything done. They're concerned about the safety on their streets. It doesn't matter what street I'm on. If it's Edgell, Grove, Millwood, Belknap, Waveney, they all have concerns. But they go and they talk to their representatives or they go in front of the Traffic Commission and they don't hear anything.
How will you be able to change that as a city councilor?
Well, one of the first things is accessibility. I'm knocking on all these doors myself. Because I believe in being that sort of counselor where you know who I am, you have my telephone number, you have my email address. I sent everybody in the district a magnet with my contact information, very clearly stating, here I am. I have ideas of how I want to communicate with people, just not online, but also through the regular mail. Because I think we can't depend on everything online. The second thing is, if they have an issue that say, I'll use the Traffic Commission again, if they are going to go in front of the Traffic Commission, I'm going to stand there right with them and advocate with them so that they know that their counselor is with them. I've heard a lot from people in the last couple of months, whether they've emailed or called me with things that they want me to already start working on. It's flattering. But they're craving for representation. And I have this dialogue with them now, and I hope to continue it over the next 2 years.
And do you think that those people that you're talking to know that there's an election coming up?
Yes. Yes, they do. Look, I'm still out there knocking on doors. Everybody knows, I shouldn't say everybody, but everybody for the most part knows that there's an election. We were the front page story for like a month.
Okay, I have a series of yes and no questions, like a lightning round that I'm just going to ask you. I've asked both you and your opponent the same questions here. So it's just a yes or no answer. Do you own a home?
No.
Do you have kids in the Framingham Public Schools?
No.
Do you believe that churches and nonprofit organizations should be paying property taxes?
Yes.
Do you believe the school committee should be involved in the planning and discussion with developers about housing development?
Yes.
Are you pro-choice?
Yes.
Do you think American Rescue Fund should be used to make up for water and sewer losses?
If it's directly about water and sewer losses.
Would you support the reestablishment of a base rate for commercial water and sewer users in Framingham?
I would like to see more data on that.
Do you think the split tax rate in Framingham between residential and commercial should be changed to put more burden on the residential side?
No.
Would you vote in favor of the deployment of body cams for the Framingham Police Department, even if the cost was over $1 million for implementation?
Yes.
Do you support additional marijuana retail licenses being granted in Framingham?
I'd like to see the other establishments open first.
Would you vote for the Traffic Commission to have a budget separate from the Department of Public Works?
Yes.
Would you vote in favor of increasing the compensation for city councilors?
No.
Would you vote to restore the salary that's been cut for the mayor?
No.
Would you vote to restore the funding to rejoin the Massachusetts Municipal Association?
No.
Would you vote to eliminate or reduce public participation at city council meetings?
I'm sorry?
Would you vote to eliminate or reduce public participation at city council
Absolutely
meetings?
not.
Would you vote to move public participation at city council meetings to the end of the meeting instead of at the beginning?
Absolutely not.
Are you in favor of changing zoning to accommodate accessory dwelling units being allowed in single-family homes?
Yes.
Would you vote in favor of appointing people to committees and boards who you don't like or haven't enjoyed working with in the past?
I believe anybody who wants to serve Framingham should serve Framingham.
Do you believe the city administration should be more diverse to include more people of color in key positions?
Absolutely.
Would you vote to expand the central business zoning downtown to extend it further down Route 135 towards Ashland and or Natick?
No.
Do you support granting tax incentives like TIFs to businesses who want to come to Framingham?
Yes, but not for apartments.
Are you interested in serving as chair of the city council or vice chair?
I'd like to get elected first.
Should Framingham spend the money to restore the Athenaeum?
No.
Do you think the Danforth building should be used for a new county court?
Yes.
Do you think the city should continue to own and operate the Pearl Street Garage?
No.
Did Framingham miss an opportunity by not purchasing the Belknap pool?
Yes and no.
Oh, okay.
More than happy to explain. I wish there was, I think the Belknap pool would have been a fabulous asset. But it's a great story about Framingham not being proactive. There was no plan, and we went from these great ideas to then becoming a parking lot for people to access the aqueduct.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to preserve open space, if we're going to be a hub of trails, if we're going to thrive as a community, we need to plan for it.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes things like that come up. You know, the Belknap pool.
We knew that the Belknap pool was we would have the first right of refusal for years. And we should have been able to bring people together, neighbors, councilors, the city, together to plan for it.
What would you have wanted it to be?
You know, I think that there were a lot of good ideas. I would have loved to have seen it as a pool because I think we need pools in Framingham. Keefe Tech is overused. But I know that there were issues with it. It could have been great open space. It could have been, you know, parkland or playgrounds, or I think there could have been a really interesting partnership with the schools there. I understand why the council voted against it, but, you know, we need to be more proactive with what we're doing here in Framingham. This is part of our problem, is that too much has been built up, and now we have to decide what are we going to do, and we're not doing it smartly or strategically.
So much of that falls on the mayor and the administration. So what is your working relationship? What can you foresee your working relationship being with the incoming mayor and the mayor's administration?
Well, first off, I work with everybody. Absolutely with everybody, regardless of what any organization that I'm part of. We want to get something done. I'm there, and let's collaborate. It's one of the things that Deval Patrick always told me was, you know, never present a problem without a solution. It may not be the solution that we go with, but at least we've presented something and we're open to working on it. I know incoming Mayor Sisitsky. We're not friends, but I know him, and I know him to be someone who is open to listening to all opinions and ideas. And I know that as a councilor, if there's something that's facing my district, I can go to him and say, this is the problem. Here's my thoughts on it. What can we do? And that's how I'm going to approach that with the mayor and with my peers on the council. You know, it doesn't matter, you know, what district you're from, or we may not agree on all the issues. I'm still going to come to you and say, how can we solve this problem together? Because that's the sort of change that we need in this community. You know.
No, you've run for office a couple of times.
No,
and
just once.
Which one?
State rep in 2018.
Okay, state rep. So that was Maria Robinson, the seat that's held by Maria Robinson.
Correct.
She's probably going to be vacating that seat. Do you have any interest in running for state rep again?
Oh no, I've been precinct out. So I'm
really?
I'm in the new the new Ashland. Sorry, the new Southborough, Westborough, Northborough district.
Southborough, Westborough, Northborough.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that would be there's a state rep there who's in.
It's actually it's a new seat. It's open, but that's not
brand new seat.
It's a brand new seat.
Okay. And in terms of this past election, with the action that was taken and the call for the recount, what was your thought process? How do you feel about the decisions that you made in that whole process to take the course of action that you took?
Well, I think if you come down by 2, it is a natural. I mean, everybody thought it was actually an automatic recount. So there wasn't, it's not automatic, so I believe that it would have been foolish of me not to ask for a recount. I mean, Audrey, you know that from not this charter. You asked for a recount when the charter vote went through back in 2017, and your margin was bigger than mine. So I'm very comfortable.
Well, it wasn't me
with
personally, so, you know, and I'm the host of the show. I'm not interviewing for a position right
No,
now,
but I'm just saying you have experience with
Yes,
that. As the chair
yes.
of Not This Charter,
Yeah.
you made that decision as well with your group. So that's the decision I made, and once we came up tied in that recount, I believed that the next step to take was a special election, and here we are.
Okay. And when you talk about the process and the fact that, it was a 2-vote margin and then they did the recount, you weren't there at the recount that day, right?
That is correct.
So you never had a chance to see those ballots?
Correct.
Okay. And then the process after that with the attorneys and the ballots, did you want those ballots, the public to see those ballots or not?
I think that because the conversation online was so toxic, so aggressive, that having those ballots, it had gone to the court because Councilor Steiner made the decision to sue the city of Framingham. And the city of Framingham did not want those ballots released. And we went with the city of Framingham. The ballots are now released, people could see them.
Right.
And that's fine. I'm not interested in going and rehashing and playing Monday morning quarterback about this case. Here we are, the judge has made the decision, he's put it back in the hands of the people of District 3, and here we are. And it's going to be an election on January 11th.
Yeah. And voters get another chance. Let's hope they all come out to the polls and vote, because it is important for
Yes.
people to use their voices to vote.
Yes.
I'm not, I'm always shocked about people who don't come out and vote and then complain, because I feel that your biggest use of your voice is your vote. And I sure hope that people will come out on January 11th and exercise their right to be involved in their local government and make a decision. So let's talk about other things. Once the election is over, if you're elected to the city council, do you have relationships with the councilors that you're looking forward to working with? Are there people that you feel you'll be able to work better with than others? What have you been thinking in terms of, I know you said you like to collaborate with people. What are you concerned about or looking forward to, or with working with the councilors that are on the council now?
I know everybody on the council. And in some way, shape, or form, I've worked with them, in whether it's advocating on certain issues to the council or in the different organizations that I serve on. So my big priorities are about economic development and rail trails and alternative transportation. And I look forward to hearing what their priorities are for this year. I've been very clear about what mine are, because this election's been going on. Now we're in the second round. And it'll be interesting to see with the new mayor what he would like to do. But I'm coming with an open mind and just operating the way that I always do, which is listening and collaborating and figuring out how to get it done.
Some people feel that the council has two sides, and hopefully that won't be something going forward, that they'll see more unification and more collaboration. How do you address, when people raise that question, how do you address it?
Sure. I mean, look, it is no secret that this council's had many 6-5 votes, but I'm going to look at every issue from the lens of what's best for District 3 and what's best for Framingham. And it doesn't matter to me what side I end on. What is best for Framingham? What is best for the district? I'm going to evaluate everything through that lens. I'm a very independent thinker. I've been writing op-eds for the last 4 years on different topics, from transportation to the environment. And I just had one that came out recently, my 5 New Year's resolutions for the city. I'm focused on those, on getting those done. So we can talk about, Framingham loves a good faction and loves to place people into groups. I'm different, and I'm focused on change.
Okay, and in terms of your immediate priorities, the things that you would like to push the city council to put on the agenda, what would those be?
Well, I would look at my New Year's resolution op-ed, but one of them is we've got to get our act together on the Bruce Friedman Rail Trail. Sudbury will be breaking ground on their segment of that soon. I have been frustrated, like many other trail enthusiasts this past year, that we are not making any progress in that area.
Well, I believe that this rests on the City Council to approve the $5 million. I believe the Mayor's office requested $5 million from the City Council to approve that so that it's ready to go when they can sign on the dotted line to approve the purchase for the land.
Well, my understanding from listening to Thatcher Keyser was that, yes, it was more of informing the council that this will come up. He wasn't really looking for any sort of vote. It was just, hey, this is potentially happening.
So if they need a vote to say, okay, we're ready, it's kind of shovel ready, so to speak, by having that vote by the City Council to make sure the $5 million is earmarked and ready to go to purchase the land for that Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, would you support that?
Absolutely. Look, I've been talking about the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail for years now. But, so of course,
because the City Council will have to approve the purchase.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait until we get to that point where we've actually negotiated and have a plan with the Georgetown High Line, where we're ready to go, where we've spoken to our federal partners about additional money, because it's going to cost more than just what it is to pay for that land. And I can't wait to see an actual plan that we can look at and be excited about. But we haven't had that yet.
Yeah, we've spent 2 years now battling COVID, right? And hopefully there'll be more that we can do. A pandemic was never anything that anyone predicted.
Sure, but this dates back before the pandemic
Oh,
began.
sure, yeah, it does. But yeah, hopefully going forward, you and the City Council and others will be able to get a lot of things done and not have to, maybe this will get under control and it'll be a lot easier to manage and do a lot of other initiatives. Luckily, there's a lot of state funding and federal funding coming that can be used for different initiatives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anything about the use of the funding that, excites you the most of what the potential might be?
The ARPA funding? I'm a little discouraged that we haven't seen more from the mayor's office about what she implementation of what she wanted to do. I thought the child care credits were needed and were a great idea, but I don't have any sense that was implemented.
Okay.
So I thought that was really, because early education and early childhood care is so critical and so important, and I thought that was a very wise investment.
Okay. Well, we've had a chance to talk about a lot of things, and again, the election is coming up on January 11th. Thank you, Mary Kate, for stepping up to run. For more information, go to her website at feeneyforframingham.com. Voters in District 3, your voting location is the Brophy Elementary School on Pleasant Street. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, January 11th. Come out to vote. But if you'll be away and want to vote, or if you're unsure if you can make it that day, you can vote by absentee ballot. Give the city clerk's office a call for details on how to get an absentee ballot. That number's 508-532-5520, and then you press 0 to talk to someone in the office. That's 508-532-5520. Thank you very much for tuning into the Audrey Hall Show, where you will always learn something new.